Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletopped. I'm your host, Nick, and today I am joined by three of the best in the biz. Why don't we all introduce ourselves?
It's me, Franco.
Nice. Oh, nice. I never thought that was going to happen.
It's me, Shade.
Ooh.
And I am also Shade.
But what about Rio? Where's Rio? Well,
Rio's the one that joined us
eventually.
first.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
Everyone thinks that we sound the same, which I don't think is true. That's what I've heard.
I could say that this is something that I have heard from a lot of podcast listeners in general. Is like when you have like the McElroys, a lot of people are like I can't tell them apart.
They're brothers and they have really similar voices.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a really easy time telling them.
Yeah, I've always been old.
Well,
Same.
now I can tell them apart.
Sure.
Because I've listened to them for like 15 years or something.
But I do think that there is it's like how some people can taste really well and how some people can hear like the minute differences in like vinyl and stuff. I think that there's just like a scale of being able to discern different sounds and stuff like that. So,
well, you hit scale really hard. You just went.
Anyway,
We all have different accents. I think that's how you can tell us apart.
That's true. So true.
Yeah.
Today, why don't we talk about something that I have been struggling a little bit with one of my games, which is splitting the party. Except not in combat. No one does that. No player is that silly, except sometimes they are. And what I've actually been struggling with is when everyone at the table is like, oh, I have to go do this other thing. Like, let's all split up and go solve our things and then come back together, which I think is great because what it is like, in my opinion, is that as a GM, the person has set up enough interesting loose ends that everyone wants to go check stuff out. You know what I mean? And no one wants any of the threads to hit the floor. So they all kind of split up to go check out whatever's interesting to them. However, I will say, Shade, you have talked in the past about the Waterdeep campaign and how like we spent a full year in one day because part of that was because we were all splitting up all the time.
Sometimes.
And then I'm just sort of like kind of struggling with that in the game too, because they're all leading up to this big event that's going to happen and people are sort of like itching for it, but they all keep splitting up to do stuff. And so it slows down the sessions enough that we haven't really got there yet. So like, how do you guys manage the differing interests of a party, people splitting off to do other stuff? Like what is your, so like, do you guys have any experience with this?
Oh, wow. I didn't expect silence.
Just Shade?
Okay. I really encourage people to split up. I don't like the idea of don't split the party, and here are my reasons. Number one, in a dungeon, fucking let them die. I figured Franco would like that one because I do think that's, you know, I don't caution against it. It's more interesting. Things can happen. Number two, tell me any fucking story where the entire party is together for the entire goddamn time. True. Never happens. That's literally not a thing. Lord of the Rings, any video game that has multiple protagonists, they all end up splitting up. You know, we were talking about Final Fantasy VI before our Waterdeep game the other
Dungeon
day.
meshy.
Sometimes
they split up.
That's true.
Not often, but sometimes they do.
It does happen. And that's where interesting things can happen. It's a chance for you to spotlight people. Also, if you've got a group of people all in one scene together and you've got 4 to 8 people, let's say.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, well, we do 4. But,
Counterpoint.
Go ahead.
He wasn't finished.
Counter your half point.
I mean, I saw it coming. I thought I was going to get the 3 more words out. But
What's up, Ria?
So, what do you do if you have split everybody up to focus on individual things, but then the rest of the party doesn't pay any attention to what that one group is doing?
damn, if he had waited to the next few minutes.
But then I would have got to say my thing.
I know. So this is a good point,
So it's
though.
a good thing. Otherwise, I would have missed an
It's true.
opportunity.
Are you paying attention when you're in the same scene with someone and you're not talking?
You should be.
You should be, but are you? I'm asking if you are, because that's the problem. If you are not talking and it's not immediately involving your backstory or something like that, chances are your average player...
Backstory.
Or
Gross.
whatever. You know what I'm saying. Whatever...
The current story.
Your ties,
Yeah,
whatever
your vibe.
Your thing.
Your vibe.
Thing, yeah.
You know, whatever your characters and you as a player are invested in, if you are kind of like on this particular aspect, you're still zoned out. So let them go do the things that actually interest them.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some downtime for other people, but that's happening anyway if they're all in one room together. And it's like, the demon lord is looking at you, Franco, and saying, blah, 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 blah. I hate these people and I'm going to kill them all. And
Good improv.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to roll perception to see if I can understand what he's talking about.
I think you mean insight.
I think you say my character
he
wants
doesn't care
to
about skill
have
checks,
more
though.
understanding, and then the DM would call for a
No, I know.
perception
I was
roll.
trying to do something as wrong as possible.
So
And we have all corrected a different aspect of it.
And that's
So-
how you know that we're professionals.
what I'm saying, Franco, is, if you are not really caring
Counterpoint.
too much about this damn demon lord and him wanting to kill all the people, your character doesn't care about it. And it's not, and the demon lord is addressing you as a party. And Nick's character is super invested in this part of the story. Nick's character is naturally going to step up and talk more. Mm-hmm. And maybe he's also just generally the face. Like I'm talkative. I know that. And in a game, I do tend to fill up blank spaces. So I end up being a face a lot of times in games. And I'm being spotlight more than anyone else, even if we're together.
Mm-hmm. One thing, because I definitely agree with a lot of this, but one thing I'm also that kind of comes out of the splitting of the party, because first of all, I think that it's important to let people have individual moments with NPCs or whoever that they think are important away from the party, because then they are able to build these relationships and really find their own character beats and all that. So I think it's important, but I also find that if you split the party, like there's that sort of like above the board in game sort of knowledge sharing where how are these people as a party going to bond with each other if they aren't going through shared experiences?
Agreed, yeah.
Because that's sort of where I'm also getting to, where a lot of people are having very dramatic and very interesting character growth moments completely separate from the party, which is fine, but it also means that the party isn't growing together. And so for a long-term sort of campaign, I'm sort of wondering like, how do you balance that? Because one is the time, but also the other thing is the social dynamics within
I think
the game.
give them more chances to actually go and do stuff together.
Yep.
And also give them time to debrief with the party.
That's true too.
I've had this very traumatic experience. Let me tell you, Party Rogue, my best friend.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, like have little campfire moments after these, after everybody like does their own thing, and then like the very next time that you guys all meet up, it's like you all like share what you guys kind of learned,
and you're doing the same like point once or twice, maybe 3 times to different, and that way the players will actually remember what happened as well.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
gives you more chance to like really, this is important.
Yeah. How do you then, because then again, and maybe I'm just fixating on this because I really find tempo to be so important in games. But if like I really love this idea, and I think that in my games I will definitely implement that, but it does mean you are reliving the same moments twice.
Oh, you're not reliving it. You're kind of like letting the person restate what happened, and also it gives them the opportunity to say something different. Like they could lie, or they could add embellishments and stuff like that, or
to interpret. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's also it's like kind of like it's like it's a conversation tool that my therapist gave me. Where like one of the things in a conversation that is really helpful to do is to like restate the other person's point back to them to make sure that you're on the same page about it. And so having that player character do that can also, kind of help you understand what their understanding of what just happened was.
Yeah.
And that can be really beneficial, because how many times have you like done something and then like the next day or like the next session, somebody's like, oh yeah, remember when we did that? It's like, that is not what happened at all. I guess we're not on the same page about this. Let's like go back and forth about it until we're like kind of on the same understanding or whatever, which is fine. And you can do that, kind of like a housekeeping thing at the beginning, but you can also do that like as part of the story where you're kind of like, okay, let's just like restate this in our head, like Rio was saying. But also, I think tempo is really important, but I think also ultimately a TTRPG is like a conversation. And so like being a good conversation partner means being able to know that you're on the same page.
Yeah.
This is, sorry, Shane.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to kind of say, I think that that's so important about being a good conversation partner and kind of letting people have the space to partake in the story in the way that they want.
Hold space, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. However, part of it too is like, I have developed all of these like hooks because I like in the world, and then everyone values them differently.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's going to happen always, no matter what. No matter what.
Even if you give them a group hook, one of them will always be more interested in it.
And that was my point earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is the other thing. You give these individual hooks in your own life. How often have your individual issues caught up with you and spilled over into your relationships, into your job, into things like that? No matter how contained you try to be, shit spills over.
Yeah.
And that is where you start to get them involved in the other hooks. Oops, Kristoff's father is apparently cursed with a lich vampire thing. And now Kristoff is, as a result, further vampirized and wants to eat all of you. That's a problem for all of you, not just for him.
Editor's notes. This is from your Waterdeep campaign.
Yes,
Kristoff
just as
is a half vampire little boy.
Yeah, he's a vampire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little boy. Daddy's a big bad.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
He's dead now.
He's all dead. Yeah, they're all
we
dead.
killed the fuck out of him. Killed your dad.
Yeah.
Bye, hater.
But and things like that, or your mother in that same game was having some issues, and it turns out that's actually pretty tied into the hex stuff. Like you can always take a thread and loop it through something, entwine it with something else. Frank.
Hi, this is Franco. Step into the faction corner. And so the thing that Shade was talking about too with like hooks, right? A lot of my factions, one of the factions that they sort of let run fallow, like hook wise, like it would be like, I sort of do this thing where I have a faction, I have them have goals, like I have them have an ultimate goal and then smaller goals that lead up to that goal.
Sure.
And so every sort of like week or so in game time or month or whatever, I roll a d6 and then if they succeed, like on a 4, 5, or 6 or whatever, they advance their trackers. And so then different things happen. And so like this one group that they let run fallow were just like, we're not going to pick up on that. That's like rumors that we've heard in the background. Like, okay, we're not interested in that. We're going to do something else. And then ultimately it got to the point where, now they are pirates, like these enemies that they were like trying to, that they heard like sort of raiding the countryside. Now they are on the high seas and they're like pirating and stuff and like doing all this stuff or whatever. So it's like, okay, now you have, like now if you want to deal with them, you have to go and deal with like their ships and stuff. And they like have done all this stuff and they've taken over these places or whatever. And it also kind of helps you level up any hooks as the characters level up too.
Yeah.
So like, you could be like, I have like bandit captains and they ignored the bandit captains or whatever. And now you have like,
these warlords.
Well, yeah. And then they've been recruited by a lich. And now it's like, and then, it's like, you totally ignored them for like 20 levels. But now there is a lich that is controlling this bandit kingdom or whatever. And it's like, wow, we totally ignored those bandits. And now the lich is like recruited them. And now we're like, the lich is going to start invading other parts of the world, and there's like a big army of undead or whatever, shit like that.
Seen that prompt? I think it's going around the internet. There's a party's getting ready to band together to go fight the lich that's been in his keep for like 1,000 years, and they get there and the leech has he became a leech because he just wanted time to read his books.
This is Steve the Lich.
No, that's webcomic. This is like another thing. So it's like, so they just banded together because everyone has known about this lich for like 1,000 years, and everyone's been scared of it. But like the lich has just been chilling. It's just like, what does your party do?
You break his glasses.
I had so much time. Finally had time.
So you still fight the lich, even though he's just trying to be a comfy boy and read all his books.
No,
oh, man, you're a monster.
To be fair, he would have had to have done genocide
to become a lich.
Yeah,
Depends
pretty much.
on the continuity.
Yeah, that's fair.
But this is...
You have to answer that question first, I guess.
me?
No, I just mean in general. It's like, did the Lich
How did he become a Lich?
Did he genocide a group of people to become a Lich? Then okay, him being cozy and reading books is kind of still
Is that
works.
part of it?
Yeah, because you have to sacrifice enough folk, right?
Yeah, genocide, I guess, maybe isn't the exact right word here because
It's more
that's
like
very
Voldemort.
targeted.
You gotta have, like,
It's
7
just, you got to have
kills.
enough people that you've killed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I would also say that, like,
mean,
even
how many-
killing one person for the chance to read your books in comfort is also probably not worth it, you know?
Yeah, it depends on the person.
But also the party kills so many people, so...
Exactly. Like in a game of fantasy violence,
Yeah.
that someone else was violent is not really a good modifier for if they should be attacked or not.
You know, that is a fun big bad. Just like to have a Lich at the ends, and you've been keeping count on how many people the party has killed collectively.
And then the Lich can be like, what are you talking about? Like, you have so many sentient beings.
Yeah.
I've raised all of them. You killed them twice to get to me.
I raised a family.
I was trying to protect them from you. But this is a great kind of segue around clocks and this sort of gameplay where I really love using clocks. We've all kind of talked about how good they are. Franco, you just made a great case for like leveling up threats with the party and having all this stuff happening and make it feel like a livable world. But I think part of it too, a problem that this brings is a sense of urgency for certain types of players to want to address all the things before they get beyond or like before they get worse. You know
Side
what I
quest
mean?
bloat.
Yeah, side quest bloat. So have you guys ever kind of dealt with that? Is there...
Just have a couple running at a time.
Sure. But like for me, what happens is that every time they play, their actions create new things.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think that kind of gets back to what Franco was talking about is, you know, you've got these side quests, treat them kind of like factions. What happens if they don't resolve them?
Right.
Just like create consequences. And if they don't, you know, the group in Waterdeep had a chance to kill the hag potentially, possibly, to at least address the hag further, who has now got a fucking plague running through Waterdeep. They kind of were weirded out by her hut, pieced out of there, realized that they could pretty easily get to Baldur's Gate to deal with at least one other side quest.
Yeah.
Did that, currently doing another side quest. And that was after a conversation, I think about 15, 20 minutes, Franco, of you guys deciding whether you're going to do that or maybe go back to Waterdeep before you were like, nah, let's also kill Falkirk's dad. We just killed Kristoff's dad. Let's do Falkirk's dad.
Let's just complete the
A lot
patricide.
of patricide, yeah.
And one of them's going to become a Lich. Just
to read.
Yeah.
going to catch a case of Lich.
So, yeah, and I think that this also kind of addresses something that you were talking about in a previous episode, Rio, around like how players want to control consequences. You know, do you remember that when you were talking?
Well, I remember the feelings I have about it.
Yeah, sure. But like, I feel as though that is maybe the core of the problem of having too many threads going is that they want to sort of control how the world develops in some way, and they want to have their fingerprints all over it. And so they want to address things before the consequences happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, you can kind of flip a switch here between, think about it like a video game. There's, you know, story mode and then there's hardcore, you know. Depending on where you are on that spectrum with this group, you can lean towards that story mode. Okay, not a lot of consequences are happening.
Yeah.
And that's not the end of the world. That's your group. It's an individual thing.
Right.
Nah, ruin them.
I don't even have a main storyline. I just like have...
I love that.
Yeah, even fucking better.
Yeah, because like, for example, one person, they were addressing this Thieves Guild. They were going in to try to plant evidence in there to like try to get this other Thieves Guild guy arrested. And then they kind of found out that there was some weird eldritch stuff happening in there, and they were like, oh, we have to save this guy, but saving him alerted the whole thieves thing. And then they used this scroll that they got from this weird like magical item noble who develops magical items that just ended up killing everybody in the thing except for
The one who like rolled up on them at the first
exactly
episode.
and the thing just went through and killed them all. But it is also sort of a thing where the guy is like, yeah, like I'm using the trample where you guys live for resources resources to develop my projects. And then they're like, what does that mean? And so now they're thinking about that, but they're also like, one of them found a book and now has entered into a contract. And like a lot of things are happening at once. And I feel like I am trying to balance it, but not doing a very good job of keeping them somewhat united in their focus. Whereas a lot of people have things happening based on their choices because they all make different choices, and it ends up kind of drawing them apart. You know what I mean?
Listen, mate, here, you either got to talk to your players and ask them to stay more organized, or if you're going to give them the free will to just do whatever they want, then yeah, you got to just figure it out, bro. You can't. What do you want from us?
I mean, I'm just kind of picking your brains about it. I think that, like, you know, talking to your players.
What do you think this show is about?
Rio's like,
I'm very confused.
I reject the premise of this show. Franco, what's up?
Hi, this is Franco. In the back here. I think it could be really helpful at the end of a session to say, what do you guys want to do next time?
Yeah.
I think that'll help you get focused with your prep. And it also will, help them focus on exactly what they're going to end up doing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of the things that you put out there as hooks can also just be like very, like, it doesn't have to be like this big side quest. It can just be like, here's a little fact that you learn and you want to follow up on that. Great. Now you have more information, and that's like kind of barely a thing to do.
Yeah.
A lot of my player characters love using like dogs' bodies. I think those are like gophers.
What does this mean?
It's
how,
like
how do they use dogs' bodies?
You know what I mean? Like gophers. Like people that
like
go
people
and,
like they employ
like
people.
hirelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They'll just like hire people.
You
to
chose
do, that's
the weirdest phrase.
Hey,
Well,
it's
it's a
good.
real
You're good.
word.
Yeah. No.
I thought that you meant that they liked transforming into dogs.
I
and
don't.
exploring.
I'm going to keep talking now. Listen, so they will just hire people to do shit for them or whatever. Like, oh, I'm going to hire this person to go to the library and do research or whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, if they have any money at any point, because you've mentioned that they're all like broke as shit or whatever. But you can
I do
send
think
a runner to go.
This is something
flip
that
a kid
I
a
have
coin.
not ever introduced into any of my games, and I think that could be a possible solution for some of it.
Yeah,
too.
because like you don't need to have them play act like going to some
library.
to like the butcher to see if he saw this guy do this or whatever. Like fuck that. That's so boring.
Yeah, I think that is interesting because a lot of like scoping out does.
Yeah, it can be fun to do a lot of play acting and blah blah blah, but like how much time do you really have?
Yeah.
Are you guys on Critical Role? No, you're not. This isn't like Matt Mercer coming up with like a fucking bender every second or whatever. Just like let's get to like the fun part, which is like going and exploring things and learning things and making difficult decisions and stuff, and not like information gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then and you can, much to, because you're playing D&D, so much to Franco's disdain, I'm sure you can do this as a skill check as well. You don't have to, if they don't have the hirelings, they are then going to pay their own time, and that's a skill check roll.
Yeah.
And with the hirelings, I would advise tiered successes based on how much money they fucking put forward.
I usually do like a 2d6 roll.
Yeah.
I had them send out scouts to 3 different locations, and then like I rolled to see how many of them came back. And they were like, people died doing this? And it's like, yeah.
It's a rough world.
Yeah. And it's like, we just wanted information from these locations. And we're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, they weren't really like going spelunking or anything. But yeah, like some of these people got murked. They showed up to a dangerous place.
I have kind of introduced, it's not for fact finding or like that kind of stuff, but one person has accidentally entered into a contract with a patron of a dubious nature and was a ranger, and now I have given them the option that basically Zabar, which is this character, this patron, has been like, yeah, I kind of helped you out that one time. I want you to sign all your friends' names in my book to pay you back.
That's extortion.
Yeah, and then she was like, no, like I really don't. And he's like, okay, well then you could put, instead of 6 names, you could put 7 names into the book, and we'll call it square. And guess what? Because I know that this is hard on you, for every other 5 names you put in after that, I'll bestow a little bit of my power for you. So I've basically been like, you can level up a warlock level by doing this. And so she can become a level 20 warlock pretty quick if she wants, but she will have to sign a lot of people into this book. And I think that will be fun. So like in that way too, I think that, providing other options that maybe aren't, a classic way to figure stuff out.
Hey, but listen.
Yeah.
What happens once the name's in the book?
What happens?
Yeah.
You have to find out. Well, essentially, it's you are pledging this person's soul to this creature that collects them.
That's such a. What if she does it and now you have a level 20 warlock in your party?
Yeah, then
Consequences. I mean,
I mean,
obviously, some other god would have to come in and stop this because you can't just claim souls on behalf
all
of
sorts of
another
consequences.
person.
yeah,
Like
there's a lot of stuff, and also just like your own moral consequences of like how far are you willing to go for power.
Also, you should definitely do like a Sith effect. So like, yeah, she'll get the warlock powers, but also her skin falls off.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. That is totally like he also offered her a different solution that doesn't require putting names into the book, and she outright refused, which was, okay, just give me an hour of your day. For every level. And so she was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. But she is sort of like, maybe I will do that for the names. And so I'm going to definitely have some fun with that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No one is happy in my world. I have a real problem.
So I would say also, for what it's worth, the five names thing, I would consider like making it an auspicious thing to just kind of keep level parity, where it's wonderful, you have done this. On an auspicious day, you will be granted this power. It's not an instantaneous thing, so that you're doing your milestone levels together.
Also, what are the consequences of walking away from the book?
Well, she is in his debt.
But yeah, what happens if she puts that book down and
she has had a dream of someone else that was in his debt who died, who is now a screaming head in a jar a room full of heads in a jar.
all right, so we've got a compelling threat. Got it.
But I mean, so this again gets back to that point of letting things spill over, because you can have all those consequences, you can have those hirelings, you can do all these things, but if someone's like at the start of the day, they're expecting to meet up with the next thing that's of their specific interest, have that person come into their gathering spot, their camp, whatever, and meet them at a time that they weren't expecting. Oh, hey, I need you. That immediately just hooks them into that one thing. You can have maybe someone's engaging with their one thing and someone else's thing kind of overlaps with it turns out. And they find themselves there together.
I've also been trying to experiment with timers a little bit more, because I've always been like pretty generous with how much time I give them to address stuff. And I think I just need to shorten the clocks on the things that they should just address as a group, and then lengthen the clocks on things that they can, like, so you can kind of create an order in which they
lengthen
can
the
do
clocks
things together.
for what?
So like, for example, the mountain, this like spirit of the mountain that one of them is sort of kind of communing with, wants them to go outside of the mountain where nobles are draining the natural energy to create these floating houses so that they can live in luxury at the top of the mountain. Sorry?
Shinra?
I don't know what that means.
Never mind.
Okay. But the mountain was like, I'll basically do it within a week, or my power will be such that we can't talk anymore. And then with this like one big fight, this big tournament that they're entering, that's only 2 days away. So that you're kind of ordering.
Let me stop you there. Are all your clocks just based on time?
Sorry, say that again.
Are all your clocks
I was really
just
confused
like time
too.
constraints? Like, okay, they have a week for this, 2 days for this, a week. Is that all your clocks?
No. Some of them are just developing in the background. But
Sorry, I thought you were talking about physical timers.
Oh, no. I'm talking about like narrative timers.
Okay.
So like the clock in Monster of the Week.
Got it.
Yeah.
See, because I was like, those things should be like, oh, you have 6 actions to take to like pass or fail this mountain thing.
Yeah.
Because that way it's not like you have one. That way, if you put time limits on, like you have a day for this, a week for that, that's overwhelming. No one's going to be able to do anything. But you have, okay, we'll have 6 actions for that, and you have to succeed before these 6 your efforts. Then they're focusing on what they want to do, and it's like they can only focus on it for so long. They can't just keep trying things over and over again.
Yeah,
that seems like a very good clock consequence. But if you just have like a shared group calendar, that's going to be crazy. No.
Sure. Yeah. I guess for me,
I don't know if I agree, and I want to know what you're talking about first.
What can I answer?
Could you explain it? Because you didn't finish explaining it.
Can I just He was saying at the top of this that he needs to extend personal quest clocks and shorten group quest clocks. So right now, there's an urgency to finish individual things, but there isn't an urgency to finish group things. So he's saying he needs to reverse that.
Oh, yeah. You should probably do that.
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
what
sense.
I was kind of talking about. But I do think that what Rio is saying is good, but like...
Wait, and so Rio doesn't like timers at all?
He doesn't like
I didn't
shared
say that.
calendars, which is to say...
No, I'm just saying that if all of your clocks are just based on you have a certain time limit, then that takes... Then that's going to be very confusing. But if you have this many tries to do something,
like with your personal quest could be tries, and then if there are like a time sensitive like group quest, then that could be a clock, like a calendar.
I think that like
okay, that makes sense. I'm on the same page
because I think that Rio,
I agree.
You're correct in making it something that is like tangible, like actions is easier because like what is time in a game? You know what I mean? Like what you were saying.
Time is real and it should have consequences.
Sure, but there was a stretch of Waterdeep where we were.
Oh, there's stretches of most of my games.
Where we're spending in like the same sort of like calendar day within the game, but it stretches a year or so, and like that is. I think maybe what you're saying where that gets confusing
Mm-hmm.
where if you have multiple things that are tracked by like in-world time, like what does that even mean? Actions are easier to track. Yeah. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense because I've also always had a hard time tracking in-game time. Like how long does it take to pick a lock?
Time shouldn't... Time is an abstract in game narratives.
Yeah.
If you're trying to like, oh, that takes 15 minutes. So, okay, we've gone from 10 a.m. to 10:15. You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah. That's why abstract time, I think time units are really important, but I don't think they should be exact.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it should be like, this is where like turns and cycles and rounds come into play, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you know, how many turns does it take to like explore a room? It takes 1 turn to explore a room.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be anywhere between like 10 and 30 minutes. Like, who cares, right? Like, why are we tracking this so specifically? And also, like, but the thing is, in 5e, you have like, this lasts a day, this lasts an hour, this lasts a minute. Like,
you
with
do
spells.
have specific times that are notated in the stats.
And so it's like a very like, it's like a really weird system because it's sort of like forcing you to do this one thing when, you know, it's kind of like, okay, like, why are we, like, what is time? Like, 5e doesn't really define what time is.
Yeah. I do kind of
outside of spells.
Yeah, because I kind of this also becomes a problem. Like in-game time becomes a problem when you split the party because everyone is nominally acting at the same time but taking different amounts of time to do stuff, and then it's like how do you gather them together and like that kind of stuff as well. So
unless there's a real reason for it to have not taken conveniently the exact same time, it's always the exact same amount.
Yeah,
I think also I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that if you know, I think a good way to move the spotlight around is if you're using like turn stuff. You know, if you're like thinking about everything kind of taking a turn, like spending a turn of amount of time with like one character and then a turn of amount of time with another character.
That's what I tend to do. Yeah,
and then also like have it on. Like if 2 split groups are in different fights, then like put everybody on the same initiative tracker. And then also if you so I thought you were talking about physical timers because I think another thing to do would also be like to use like physical timers and be like, oh well, I'm not going to spend more than 15 minutes on this person, or I'll give myself like a 15-minute warning of like I've spent 15 minutes with this one player character, like that's way too much time. Like I should move along to somebody else. So people don't like get bored or lose attention or whatever.
Yeah, because it is, I think that having those physical timers like you were talking about is interesting, especially when tracking in like D&D or a system that has sort of like a mushy sense of time, to have those physical timers to help indicate those like dungeon turns or whatever you were talking about. I think that
you can do it that way too.
Yeah, I think that that's interesting. But the thing is that is hard for me is you're also dealing with a bunch of people who value different aspects of the game. Like I have one person who just wants to get to the one big fight because this is like, ooh, like I'm about to just mash some. It's gonna be
even better when they get to it.
Yeah, right. But then I have another person.
So you got to tease them.
Yeah, you just give them a fight every time. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like, one big fight's coming up, big boy.
Oh no.
But like one of them is just really into role playing, and so. Yeah. She was having a conversation with her parents because they were like, we got to get out of this place. And she's a teenager and they're like, you don't know what's good for you. We're going to throw you into the back of this caravan because we're getting out of here.
Teen adventurer.
Yeah. And then she had this like kind of chat with them that ended with her running away from her family. And that's like really important to her, right? Like that's like a huge character moment. But then how do you balance like that sort of gameplay with the people who want to progress 2 days and get to the one big fight? So that's what kind of came out of this. But yeah, I think that all of these notes are pretty useful in those situations.
I think what can be really useful is like a downtime turn.
Yeah.
You know, like you're just like, okay, like we're going to take some downtime. What do you guys want to do in town? Mm-hmm. And like her experience is my parents want to kidnap me and get out of town. Yeah. Basically. And she's like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's like, okay, great. What are you doing during these 2 days or whatever that we're waiting before we get to the big fight? Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like, great. Now what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, it's like you kind of like are moving around and you're just kind of like treating this sort of downtime part abstractly. But it's still kind of time-based because you're, you know, still like, well, it's whatever you could reasonably do in 2 days.
Yeah.
Or like a week or a month or whatever, however long you want to put between like adventures or quests or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's really the way that time progresses in my game is once we've done the long day, a few days pass usually.
Yeah.
And what'd you do during that time?
Yeah,
you know?
Shade will give us a lot of time skips. You know, like a year. Like I thought taking like years off and like months off is like this is great. Like of course we would, right? Like this 100%. We have like big adventure things and then
got shit to do.
I think in our Waterdeep campaign, like everything is stasis until it's not, and like something explodes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's the type of game you're running or not. But my campaign currently is like there's no stasis. They are roving around, knocking things off. Like they're just like, let's explore this big map. Go there, go that. This person wanted us to do this. Okay, let's go there. And they're like just doing a lot of traveling.
Yeah,
that's
so that's a different type of game.
It is, and I think that this is actually something that because you're in the trample.
Yeah. It's
the trample is their home.
Yeah.
So they're not roving. They're not itinerants. They do have lives here.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it that way in Waterdeep is like shit's popping off and then it's not. Life is just, busy and whatever.
But that's the other thing is that because I'm very much trying to not write is that they could leave the mountain at any time.
Do you think I plan shit?
yeah, exactly. They could just like up and leave, and I would figure something else out. Yeah. But like they are investing in specific spaces, so yeah. I think that's good. For me, like my ideal is sort of how Lakewood happened a little bit, where you guys would come together. Mm-hmm. Fix this like mystery or problem, and then we would have episodes where you would all kind of split off and do stuff.
The downtime.
Downtime, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the lunar interlude.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Malco Boys really did hit that well and balance. It was shit's happening, lunar interlude.
Yeah.
It felt so just systemic and peaceful.
You should introduce a moon base.
There you go.
To your campaign.
Right.
And everyone who's not actively participating in group goals is on the moon doing RP.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, fuck it. They find a moonstone and it teleports them to they've got else. A little, I like that.
Yeah. One of them becomes a clay fable.
I mean,
I'm so glad you did that.
I'm into that too.
Any final thoughts on sort of like the separation and bringing, like, I guess we haven't really talked about, is there any way that you guys have found
Could
really
you say the
successful?
sentence again, please, in one go?
Any final thoughts on how to bring a group that has separated back together? You know, because we've talked about how to sort of make it function when they do separate, but do you all have any?
It's very situational, I think.
Any
It's
plans?
so circumstantial.
Yeah, but I think often if you're like in a location like a dungeon, that can be pretty easy. You know, you just hop back and forth between everybody, and then you're just like, oh, you're doing this? Okay, we've spent 5 minutes with you. Let's go to this other person, you know, like just like normal. If you're in like this more nebulous space and stuff, like I think just like figuring out like, okay, like we need a new quest for all of you guys to go on together, and all of you guys hear about it, and then you guys come together. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
And, you know, doing that kind of organically, like trying to, you know, put in some ways to bring people together that way and making sure they've resolved things. But yeah. Shade, what were you saying?
Real first.
I was going to say, like, always have a call of action ready to go.
Yeah.
Something that, like, okay, you've all been doing this for a very long time in your own things. Now your friend, Peter, the pothole filler, needs you all. All comes back together.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, just make it even if it's not an NPC that was completely unique and not tied to their individual story. Make one of their individual stories. Hey, this person's problem is going to require assistance. Oh my gosh, you know, turns out my parents, as they were fleeing, have now been abducted and are imprisoned, and the only way to get them out is for a 4-person prison heist, you know, like something like that.
I think that too, that also brings another thing in that I think is super valuable, which is give them all of the information so that they don't have to spend so much time planning or gathering.
I recapped what the fuck is going on at the top of all my sessions for my own goddamn benefit. Also, that's when I'm like figuring out what I'm actually doing that day.
Yeah.
Because I didn't plan shit. I had no idea what we were actually doing in this last session in Waterdeep. I actually had no idea what was going on with Falkirk's father or any of that. And it was just boom, 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 boom.
And you get there.
And we got there. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that because I think I have, since it's earlier in the campaign, I have been giving them a lot of chances to discover the world and them to gather information about the world and to really start figuring out what they're interested in. However, that does lead them to split so that they can talk to specific people or go do specific things or whatever it is. And rather than that, I could say, you know, that all of this is true. And that might not give them the endorphin rush of like figuring out part of a secret. But if you just give them something and give them all of the information around it so they can just skip to the action, it will maybe keep them together.
Keep in mind that what is, because you said figuring out a secret there.
Yeah.
Should their world be a secret to them? Should it be something that I know that there's an aspect in gameplay of I'm exploring the world, I'm learning about it. Yeah. But that has never quite sat right with me if that person has lived in that world.
Right.
Like if it is it always makes sense to me if it's like, I've never been to this place. Mm-hmm. Great. Sure. Awesome. You are exploring this world.
Yeah.
If it is, I lived here, a lot of it should just be, well, you know that this is a thing. Yeah. So what they're exploring are the circumstances around the thing.
Yeah.
And they can do that as a part.
Well, most of the time what they're discovering is like what different groups are trying to affect upon the world. You know what I mean? But instead of being like, yeah, something weird is happening in this warehouse, you could just be like, hey, a kid comes up to you and says like, hey, I saw some like cultist looking people and they're drawing this symbol, give them the symbol. And it seems like whatever they're doing is going to finish by like this afternoon. Yeah. So like, I just wanted to let you guys know because you've been very active in the area.
And make that symbol appear in all of their individual shit and then they're together.
That brings them all back.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Pretty smart.
Well, thank you all for listening. If you're interested in hearing more episodes like this, then you can come back every Monday when we drop a new episode right here in your feed. But if you want to support the show, you can also go to patreon.com/Tabletopped. We have extra episodes there, along with modules and other things that we drop in there from time to time. And if you have a specific question you would like answered, please go to our website, tabletopppod.com. There's a contact form there. We read every single one. Please send us your questions, and we will do our best to answer them on the pod. All right, everyone, we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.